as quick as I can a tutorial video on how to properly uninstall and reinstall an NVIDIA graphics driver. I had some, interest in some of my older videos in the comments. I did unlist those videos simply because they're a little bit outdated. The information is no longer relevant. So today we're just going to be going through it as quickly as possible. I got it relatively straightforward. I have a couple links that you're at the top of the description. You're just going to go to them and download them. So let's get right into it. So first things first, what you're going to need is 7-zip. I got 7-zip pulled up here. I'll have a link to it at the top of the description. Go ahead and download that. We're going to need that to get the GPU refresh folder that I have. I'll have a link to Dropbox. It's super easy to download it. Again, click download a 7-zip just like this. It'll pop up here. You can put it in your downloads folder wherever. I'll download it here just for argument's sake, even though I already have it installed. And then over here, same thing. When you open up Dropbox, just click this download button right here. And you should be able to just click or continue with download only. And that'll download the file. So I'll put that as well on my, we're just gonna throw that on the desktop. Why not? If it'll download. I see it there. I don't see it on the desktop. Guess I'm blind. I know, but where is it? Things are already messing with me. Anyway, now that that's downloaded, I'm gonna recommend that you extract it to your desktop. Just hover over 7-zip here. Once you have it installed, click extract to GPU refresh. Here they are. And now it shows up. I don't know what the hell's going on. Anyway, we can get rid of the zip file, or you can save it for later if you need to. But what I want you to do, due to how my shortcuts are set up, I want you to drag and drop this into your C drive. That's going to be this PC, local disk C. Drag the extracted file into here. And then go ahead and go into this. And I already have a shortcut here for you. And you can just keep that on your desktop. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this one for simplicity's sake. So whenever you need to do a fresh driver install, you have this icon here. Again, you could just navigate to C drive, GPU refresh, but I thought that'd be easier for you guys just to drag it to the desktop and go through it that way. So we'll go ahead and click on the shortcut. Now you have two folders in here. The underscore, this is basically just where I store all the programs that we're going to be using. And in the other folder called steps, these are numbered 1 through 18 of just steps to follow and go through. I'll break it down quickly. You're going to boot in the safe mode, then we're going to run DDU. Once DDU is ran, then we're going to install our NVIDIA driver through NV clean install. After that, we can set up custom resolutions if you want to. In this video, I'm not going to be covering that. If you guys want like that type of video in the future, let me know. We'll take care of it. I'll get it done. After that, we're going to double check and make sure our card is in MSI mode. Enable some legacy NVIDIA sharpening. We're going to configure the control panel. We're going to go through NVIDIA Profile Inspector. We're going to disable some context menu stuff and check for extra programs with auto runs. And then we'll simply just clean up our temp files and then rebuild performance counters, and we'll be done. So let's get ahead and get started. So we're going to boot the PC into safe mode. What this is going to do is pull up msconfig or system configuration. Go over here to boot, click safe boot, and then click apply. Now it's going to prompt you with a box. It's going to say, hey, you need to restart to boot in the safe mode. We're going to click restart. And once I'm back, all right, future Spanky here. I'm back now. My audio got cut out a little earlier. But now that I'm rebooting the safe mode, we're going to open up msconfig again. We're going to go to boot, and then we're going to disable safe boot and then click apply. You're going to have another pop-up box like here. Just make sure you click exit without restart. Now we're going to go ahead and go into DDU and run it. As you can see, there's some options here that you can play with. All the settings that I have listed here are what I recommend to use. Down here at the bottom, you have a setting called prevent downloads for Windows Update. That's what we're going to check to make sure that when we boot, after wiping the driver with DDU, the Windows Update doesn't automatically try to give us a new NVIDIA driver. It will just be on the Microsoft Basic Display driver. So my PC just restarted from, you know, wiping the driver with DDU. Now I'm going to go ahead and go into NV Clean Install, and this is going to be a program that we can use to download and install a stripped version of Windows. So I'm going to go ahead and recommend you get the latest. I like the legacy control panel. Some people like the new. Just for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to just keep it basic. I'm going to wait for this to extract and prepare the installer. There are some more settings in there you can adjust with, you know, or install if you need them. Again, you can always download GeForce Experience later from the NVIDIA website. But me personally, for performance, we're going to go with as simple as a driver we can. So that's just going to be the driver and the legacy control panel. So we have some more options here. I'm going to disable the installer telemetry, perform a clean install, disable Ansel. Now there's some expert tweaks in here. A lot of these I don't recommend messing with. You can disable HDCP if you want, but a lot of the stuff is placebo. So I'm going to go ahead and click install. This is going to bring us through the installer that we just configured. I click custom, and then I make sure that perform a clean install is checked. I like to start fresh every time. If you don't want to have to do, you know, control panel settings adjustments every single time, you can just, you know, overwrite. But me personally, I just like to have a fresh start every GPU driver in my mind so that I know all my settings are configured how I want them. Just gonna wait for this to install. I'll see you guys back on the desktop when this is all done. Okay, so now that that graphics driver is installed, we can go ahead and continue on with our checklist. Click close there, and now, you know, we can go to step 5, which is custom resolution utility. Now, me personally, I use a monitor with display stream compression. If you aren't using DSC, you can feel free to make custom resolutions and utilize them to your heart's content. I recommend you use display scaling. There is somewhat lower latency rather than, you know, GPU scaling, but it's gotten to the point where the GPUs are so powerful where to that latency amount is not that big of a deal. But there are some people that can actually feel that difference. So I recommend display scaling if you are going to be using custom resolutions. For the purpose of this video, I have it in here for anyone to use. But me personally, I play native nowadays. I don't really bother with custom resolutions. I'm just going to delete this old EDID. That's the old one. Here's our new one now. You can see the ones that are active here. Close out of that. We're going to go into the device manager and check for some older monitor EDIDs. So right here we you know, I go devices by connection, show hidden devices. We're gonna find the Microsoft Basic Display driver. This is the driver that pops up when, you know, we're in safe mode. I delete these basically out of habit since I use a capture card and I don't want the wrong EDID to load when I boot my PCs. So I just like to get rid of these once I know I have my monitor's refresh rate and resolution set. So it always boots to those. I never have to worry about it. We're going to open up the MSI mode utility program here. Now, depending on your system, this can look rather daunting. I know I got plenty of extra ports, a very feature-packed motherboard. A lot of this stuff is placebo. You don't have to worry about it. Defaults are fine. What we are looking for is right here. Find your graphics card and make sure it's in MSI mode. You can change the interrupt priority to high. Again, these are mostly placebo. With today's modern hardware, it's not really going to do too much. Feel free to check it with latency mom, but at what point, you know, we're talking microseconds where it's nothing. Just to clarify, most graphics cards should be in MSI mode by default. Some cards like the 2000 series, I'm currently waiting on 5080 stock. I plan on upgrading, but I'm on my 2080 Ti still. Most of the modern cards should be in MSI mode by default, but just come in here and check, make sure. We click apply now, close that, we're done with there. Now we're going to go ahead and go into registry editor, regedit for short, and we're going to go to this URL here. It's going to be the sharpen location text. What you could do is you can just grab this, right? And when you click this link, it's just going to open up the base default location. Just grab that link, paste it right here, hit enter, and then it'll pull you to the same spot I'm at right now. You know, this will save if you do multiple, you know, driver installs with my checklist. It'll pull you straight up to this folder. But what we're looking for is the string called enable gr535. What this will do right here, we're going to change the data value. We're going to click modify. We're change the value data to 0. And what that'll do is it'll bring up the legacy NVIDIA sharpening, which to me is way better, superior in all aspects. With the new sharpening, it's more of a scaling method like DLSS, you know, or NVIDIA Super Resolution, the older tech. So where it's trying to render the screen at a low resolution and add a sharpening filter on top of it in the driver level. This to me is not as ideal as the legacy version. And if you ever want it back, you can always come in here, change it to 1, restart, and the old version, the newer version will be there. Just me personally, I prefer the older legacy style, where it's just a flat filter. So we're gonna go ahead and click restart now, and I'll see you guys when I'm. All right, so here I am, just did a restart. I'm back on my desktop. I'm gonna go ahead and go to my GPU refresh shortcut, go to steps. We just finished adding the legacy NVIDIA sharpening through regedit. Now we're gonna actually go ahead and configure our NVIDIA control panel. If you click perform a clean install, this should pop up for you. If you left it, that's fine as well. I prefer to start fresh every time, and I'd rather just make sure and know that all my settings are static and working. So I just do fresh installs every single time. Before we get started going in through all this, we're gonna click on desktop and make sure we enable developer settings. This will allow us to enable the manage GPU performance counters setting, and then I get rid of these. Personally, me, I don't like having bloat on my right click, nor do I like having it in my taskbar, so I get rid of those. I like to start from the bottom. So for just video image settings, I recommend use NVIDIA settings and disable deinterlacing. For video color settings, same deal. Use NVIDIA settings, go ahead and go over to advanced and change this dynamic range to full. Click apply. Over here to manage GPU performance counters, I'm going to click allow and then click apply. I need to pause my recording because when you click this and hit apply, your screen's going to flicker black and come back. So like I said, your screen should flash black. You're going to get this pop up. Click yes. So I am using a capture card and I am using cloning, so that's why I have all this extra stuff going on. Me personally, I don't like G-Sync. I disable it. I don't you can basically get away with G-Sync in terms of latency. It really depends on what kind of frame rate you're pulling. If you're playing a competitive shooter like Counter-Strike, Valorant, Overwatch, I recommend disabling G-Sync if you're on a lower refresh rate monitor, because that latency difference you're going to get from those higher frame rates are going to outdo any smoothness you can get. But as you get to the high refresh rates, 300, 360, utilizing G-Sync and capping your frame rate under that can be worth it, especially for single player games. So absolutely recommend G-Sync for like single player games for visual fidelity. If you're playing, you know, competitive shooters, you should still be, you know, disabling G-Sync. Again, this is personal preference. I'm not going to go over in this video how to properly set up G-Sync. If you guys are interested, let me know in the comments. I could do another video on that. My monitor is not technically it doesn't have a G-Sync module in it. It's just G-Sync compatible. But me personally, I just don't use it. So I'm going to disable G-Sync, uncheck it, click apply. Go to desktop size position. Now this one can be important if you're using custom resolutions. If you make custom resolutions in a NVIDIA control panel, like we said before, no scaling. If you select no scaling, that'll ensure that you're using display scaling. And you can always check that by going here into display settings. And then advanced display. You can always check this. Now, if your desktop resolution says one thing, and the active signal resolution says another, you're probably GPU scaling if it's still in your full, if it renders to the full aspect of your monitor. Now, if you have a 1440p monitor and these both say 1080p, you are display scaling. So that's one way how to check that. You can check that over here. Me personally, again, I play native. I don't play stretch resolution anymore. I think it's a bit of a waste, and it's also a lot harder to do when you have a monitor that uses display stream compression, simply because it's got to use an algorithm to compress the pixels to drive it at X resolution and Y refresh rate, so it's just more of a pain. I'm not saying it's impossible, you still can do it. I just don't bother with it anymore. I just stick to native. So if you're just playing native and you're playing at your monitor's full resolution, just click no scaling or full screen. That'll ensure that it's always full. If you're using GPU scaling and you're using custom resolutions, try full screen out. If you're playing legacy games, retro games, it might even be worth trying integer scaling to where you're playing at 720p. By using integer scaling, you're going to get a damn near perfect pixel scale from like 720p to 1440p. As you can see, I'm back. I'm going to click yes. Audio doesn't really matter. I turn it off. I don't use it. HDC P status. There are some documentations on the web stating that this can improve latency. If you're doing pass through, I recommend leaving it enabled, especially with a capture card. I haven't really noticed a performance difference. Feel free to test it for yourself. I don't really know if it's worth it. All right, adjust desktop color settings. This one, again, is personal preference. I'm going to drag this over to the side so you can see my background wallpaper. Now, some people, a lot of competitive players play CSGO, they'll crank this to 100. This will crank your colors and oversaturate the image, kind of make it more colorful and make enemies pop a little bit more. I find 100 to be a bit too much. I played on it for a while, and some people really like the extra color. Me personally, I like to leave it around 75. Even bumping this up to something like 60, 65 is a lot better than 50. But me personally, I play at 75, so I'm gonna click 75, click apply. Then I'm gonna go over here to change resolution. Now this one's important. In the PC section, find your monitor's max refresh rate or resolution, and then click the highest refresh rate possible. This one's really important. I see a lot of people that don't do this. If you're having a hard time finding it or grabbing it in here, you can also navigate and do this through Windows. So you'll right click on the desktop, click display settings, go to advanced display settings, find your monitor. You can check it in here, or you can actually click display adapter properties. Then you can go to list all modes, and you can maybe find the max refresh rate and resolution in here. But yep, I got my max resolution and refresh rate selected. Then I'm gonna come down here again, use NVIDIA color settings, highest output color depth you can, RGB, that's fine, and try to get a full output dynamic range. Some people might, on older monitors, this might be set to limited. All right, now that's done, I'll click yes. Make sure they're saved. Again, this is the max for my capture card, so I'm gonna ignore that. They're dissolving PhysX or discontinuing it or whatever the word is. I'm still gonna select the GPU as the PhysX processor. And then to save some time, I'm gonna go up to adjust image settings or preview, and I'm gonna click use my preference, emphasizing. Then I'm going to drag this all the way to performance, click apply. This will save us some time and manage 3D settings when we're changing some settings. So I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom again. I like to go bottom to up. Threaded optimization, enable that, turn that on. Texture filter and quality, high performance. You guys have seen these in every NVIDIA tutorial, control panel driver tutorial ever. But it's basically the same stuff. Highest available refresh rate, change power management mode to prefer max performance, latency mode. Now I recommend you do this on a per game basis just for simplicity. I'm just gonna put ultra. Just know that if you're in a game that supports NVIDIA Reflex, that's gonna override this setting anyway. So for most part, you should be on ultra. If you're using a GPU to where 9 times out of 10 your GPU is constantly pegged at 95% or higher, I would just leave this at ultra. If you're playing 4K consistently, just leave that at ultra. For games that don't support reflex, I would just leave it on ultra. If you're playing games competitively, there is some documentation proving that having low latency mode and literally a reflex, null, whatever you want to call it, having that disabled is actually more beneficial for latency. But my recommendation is try to keep your GPU utilization under 95% at all costs, and that's going to mitigate a metric ton of input latency. There is a YouTuber by the name of Battle Nonsense. Some older videos of his will prove what I just said. If you are passing 95, that's when you're going to want to have this low latency mode enabled or NVIDIA Reflex enabled. But ideally, try to keep your GPU utilization under 95%. If you don't want to have to worry about it, just leave it on. Just leave it enabled. You'll never have to worry about it. You're not going to sacrifice that much latency. But per cited documentation, keeping your GPU under 95% and disabling Reflex can actually be more beneficial than staying under 95 with Reflex enabled. There's just something to keep in mind. Last but not least, I got gamma correction. Again, I haven't really tested this. I don't really know what it does. Everyone says turn it off. I just turn it off. And then of course, image sharpening. Here is our legacy sharpening. I just put it on global. Personally, I like the defaults are great. I don't use GPU scaling. 50 and 0.17 are perfect. And I just click apply. That's our video control panel done. We'll close that and we can go back to steps. That's our control panel done. Now we can go ahead and open up NVIDIA Profile Inspector. Now there's not a lot of stuff to do in here. I'm going to uncheck the magnifying glass. But the two things I like to disable, CUDA Force P2 state. This was causing some people's VRAM on their graphics card megahertz to drop somewhat. Again, I don't think it's end all be all. I believe it only takes effect when you're like maxing out the NVINC encoder on your card. Just for my rig, I use a dedicated PC to record and stream. I just disable it. Other than that, there is a setting down here that I like to disable called, where is it? NVIDIA predefined Ansel usage. I don't like Ansel. I don't recommend you use it. The only type of filter I recommend you use is the sharpening filter baked into the video control panel, or if it's in the game. NVIDIA filters cause so much performance loss and so much input latency to the point where it's not even worth it. The only game that I can even remotely recommend NVIDIA filters on is like Dead by Daylight, simply because the game is capped at 120 FPS and cranking up colors and stuff like that can give you a slight competitive advantage, and you're not going to be bottlenecking your GPU whatsoever. Other than that, any other game, we're talking in some cases upwards of 100 FPS just by having a few NVIDIA filters on. So I just recommended just not using it. Even something like Reshade is less, resource intensive than that. Now, you're going to see a lot of things on the internet about, or YouTube, about tweaking settings in here. I don't recommend it. A lot of it's placebo. You're getting into the point where we're not really changing anything. I think I saw a video of a guy talking about changing like these, like some of the pool mem thresholds and stuff like this, like modifying these. Dude, we're grasping at straws here. And max command buffers, like I said, and this one I think they were messing with. A lot of the settings in here, they're nothing burgers, man. They're just placebo. Don't bother. Those two settings are pretty much the biggest that's going to do anything, if anything. After that, we're going to go into step 12. This is going to pull up auto runs. Don't get too overwhelmed. Basically, just starting with log on. See if there's anything here you could disable. I don't recommend disabling anything in here. In Explorer, I like to disable the NVIDIA context menu because I don't like seeing it. And then in scheduled tasks, make sure you don't have a bunch of, startup programs that you don't need. And then check services. I got like the Google update services disabled. Don't need them. Other than that, just don't do too crazy. Just try to stay in these two tabs and just try to disable things that you think you might not need. And then if you do need them, you can always be back into the PC and recheck and then restart. Stay out of the drivers tab. Do not go in here. You can break your stuff. Just stay out of here. These are the only two you should be in. Maybe some services you might not need, like, so I have my audio service disabled and Google Update just to try to mitigate background services, because that's going to speed up your PC. And then just some startup applications. I don't have anything disabled in here. That's pretty much it for that. And then again, we're just going to go ahead and double check device manager. When we did some of those black screen settings that flickered our screen in the video control panel, it does accidentally, you know, make an EDID for it in the basic driver, and I just like to get rid of it. And then we're just going to go through here and delete our temp files. So you can just hit Control A on your keyboard and then hit delete. Once you're done, and we'll go in here, same thing, Control A, delete. And if you need admin, click continue. If it says duplicate or program using, just hit skip. So that's done. And then lastly, I'm going to go ahead and go into disk cleanup, and we're just going to clean up the Windows drive. I check all the boxes. So if you just did a fresh Windows update, that'll come up in here as well. But I just check all the boxes. If you do have a USB stick with a Windows ISO on it, unplug that, because it's going to wipe that drive too. I recommend just unplugging any thumb drives you have plugged into your PC whenever you do this disk cleanup. And just click OK. Just going to wait for this to load now. That's all done. Last but not least, we're going to go into rebuild performance counters, run as admin, and then done. We rebuilt the performance counters. Close that. And then last but not least, we just need to restart the PC, and then we're done. And then once I'm back on the desktop, I'll go over some closing thoughts with you guys. All right, I'm back on the desktop. So just to wrap up, I appreciate you guys sticking with me, watching through this video, getting through it. Bookmark this video, save it for the future. That's pretty much the basics when it comes to doing a fresh driver install. After that, you know, after you're doing all this, feel free to start going into your, you know, MSI Afterburner and dialing in your overclocks. You know, you can always, you know, there's plenty of guides on how to optimize performance, but my recommendation is, you know, you don't need to do a GPU driver install every single time one comes out. Feel free to wait a couple versions. Some versions come out and they're just terrible. The only time I recommend upgrading your driver is if it's several months old, or there's a game ready driver available for a game that you're getting ready to play day one. If you're getting ready to play that game day one, you already bought it, you're excited to play it, just download the driver, follow this video, go through all that, get the new driver on, configure all your settings, and then you have the best experience possible. Now, if you're still having issues even after doing a fresh driver install, I highly, highly, highly recommend doing a fresh Windows install. That is absolutely going to clear up 99.99% of most people's problems. Over time, Windows gets bogged down with all the updates, and the only way to fix it is to just do a fresh install. Other than that, you could be having hardware issues. You could have a faulty CPU overclock. A lot of CPUs are pushed to the max out of the box and are not fully stable. They're degrading, etc. So, you know, stress testing your CPU, making sure that's stable, stress testing your memory. A lot of DDR5 overclocking guides and stuff like that are wrong. Default XMP profiles are not always 100% stable. If you're on DDR5, I recommend using a program called Carhu. I'm 24 hours stable certified on that right here. Thank God. 24 hours took me forever. It took me a lot of FAFO to get DDR5 stable on this 4DIMM board. Other than that, you know, it could be your video card. Older video cards, VRAM, you know, if they're overclocked heavily, can start to degrade. You might need to downclock your GPU a little bit. But other than that, if it's not a hardware issue, you stress tested your GPU, CPU, memory, and everything looks good, simply doing a fresh Windows install can help you a lot. There's plenty of guides on YouTube for that. I highly recommend Freethy. That's FR33THY. He makes great content on YouTube. Go check him out. He makes great guides on how to update your Windows, do fresh installs relatively quickly too. He's got a bunch of links on GitHub you can go check out. Other than that, a lot of stuff, you know, Windows optimization, it's placebo, man. It's almost like it's like 99% hardware, 1% OS config. There's no magical sauce or Windows setting that's going to make you good at games. Good sleep, aim practice, good diet, that's going to carry you wonders more than, you know, sitting there for hours in a Windows regedit disabling settings for 3 hours just to try to get 2 more FPS or lower your latency millisecond reading. So at the end of the day, if this guide helped you, thank you. Sorry for a little bit of the rant at the end, but I think some of these videos just go too crazy. That's pretty much it. I appreciate you guys sticking with me. If you guys have any recommendations for videos in the future, go ahead and pop them in the comments. If you need help, throw that down in the comments too. I'll try to help you out when I can. I'm working 80 hours a week. I got a family now. I'm an old man. I'll try to help you guys out. I encourage, you know, other people's in the comments. If you can help somebody out or you see a comment, you might be able to help them out. Help them out. Give them a little shove in the right direction. But other than that, I appreciate you guys watching the video.